Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Today is 2021, March 22nd. This is the weekly meeting for our multi-large working group. And let's go to our agenda. First, what has been done right now is blank. Anything to add from the team? I know we have been a lot of teams have been very busy with the recent rapid actions to mitigate the .com incidents. So probably that's a side effect of this working group. If nothing else here, let's move on to what's happening next. Amy, you have the first item.
Thank you. Yep. So in delivery, we are now testing out the API service in staging. The testing is around seeing what happens, making sure we can deploy safely, and we're looking also at the blackout second value and seeing if there's a, are we starting pods up at the right cadence and at the right times. If everything looks okay, and I think logs are probably our biggest question mark, which we haven't yet seen, but if the logs look okay, we're hoping to move through to Canary this week. So good progress. As I say, we've as John says, we've been caught up in incidents, so not moving as quickly as we had hoped, but moving along nevertheless.
Thank you, Amy. Great progress. And Josh has an item. Is Josh here? No. Stephen, would you mind to verbalize for Josh?
Yes, we just recently spoke about this earlier this morning. We are going to go ahead and schedule this. I believe it's a P1 S1, so it's been added to our 1311 deliverables. Jason's assigned to it now. We're probably going to get some additional resources from the team to help get this knocked out quickly.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks for taking that as well.
Questions? Okay, then moving on to blockers. I'm actually a proxy for the DB team. Some background to share here. There is a blocker on the DB side because the DB team is stretched on multiple fronts. All the team is in urgent efforts to mitigate the .com incidents about the DB situation, and also then followed by the DB database scalability working group, which there are a few items needs to be done as soon as possible, like the primary key overflow migration or primary key overflow mitigation, and also the blueprints for that working group, and coupled with a couple people with going on the paternity leave in short term. So we are asking for a headcount reset to mitigate the staffing gap in short term. But meanwhile, this means that the DB team will not be able to work on anything that's out of the scope mentioned above. So I called out one issue here. This one, we talked about it last week, but the DB team, this is right now very low in the order of the priority at the DB team, or at least they are not able to make progress here. So the question is here, is distribution team would be able to pick up? And Jason, you have a question.
Right, initially the question was what the priority would be here in making sure that we can get this load balancing initialized faster.
Yeah, so I just quoted Amy's comment from last week. Expectation is 13.11, but I think we also need a priority label here to indicate what the priority expectation here is.
Yeah, and it might be, I mean, it's a little hard to say without having done a bit of investigation. So we suspect this was the cause of a recent incident, but I don't think that's been validated. Stan has also added a link that this is potentially a cause of another problem. So it does seem to be something which is impacting various other things, but I don't know how easily we'll be able to just validate that.
I think usually we start from a severity 2 for production issues. Is that a fair starting point?
I think that seems fair. Like, what are the options we have for? So if we're saying that database definitely can't pick this up, like, what other options are there? Like, which teams are we sort of seeing as possible teams who could pick this up?
That's a good question. I was thinking about that. It looks like it's about the service provisioning and the service. After deployment, you start the services and the service endpoints, check the endpoints availability. This seems to me the knowledge is in distribution or infrastructure team. I mean, just checking whether the endpoint is up and functional. I wonder if some people from the infrastructure has a knowledge to diagnose. Right now, looks like it's a DNS error.
Okay, well, let's ask around then. I'm a little worried about. I know infrastructure is super busy with incidents. So when I say infrastructure, I mean the reliability teams. Let me see what I can do and see if we can, like, maybe we just schedule this in delivery, and that's the best we can do.
Yeah, but I also asked the distribution team if they can, step in here to help out.
Yeah, I threw a comment in there. I think until we can reproduce it reliably, how do we know we've actually fixed anything? And so that's where I'm at. I think we're happy to jump in, but we're not quite sure what the action is until we're able to reproduce it reliably.
Would the database team have any capacity to help with that, with getting a reliably reproducible test case?
Unfortunately, I would say probably not.
Okay. Okay, let me see if we can make any progress on it in delivery. It's such a question mark, right? That I guess we don't know if we're blocked. We don't know if it causes incidents. I suspect it's probably causing something, but it's not like everything is going to, well, not as far as we know, everything's going to break. So yeah, I'll see what delivery can do with that.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, any more questions around this? Okay, moving on to discussion. Sid, you have one question there.
Yeah, thanks. I wonder how kind of GitLab private relates to this working group. If we do something like GitLab private, we will have kind of multiple large installations, which is the name of this working group. On the other hand, it also feels like a separate project. So I don't have a preconceived idea. I just, I'm wondering whether people have a take on that.
I'd agree, they're definitely related. I guess the specific question is this group really designed to enable private, or is it going to be also responsible for ensuring private?
Yeah, I'm not sure you meant by ensuring private, but I agree they're related. How I've been thinking of these has been that we are focused on the near term, at least, on completing the Kubernetes migration, which will help us derive operational efficiencies and other areas that will help us become more efficient at running multiple large instances. And GitLab private would be taking advantage of some of this work, at least, to help improve our ability to run multiple instances. That's how I have mentally connected the two.
Yeah, makes sense. It feels also like this working group is like at the finish, near the finish line, and GitLab private is starting to gear up. but for clarity, we might as well make GitLab private something else in case we decide to do a working group there.
I
Yeah, I
wonder.
think this one is currently driving on Kubernetes, and I think it's been good to have that focus on continuing the progress on tracking updates there. I feel like GitLab Private will, if we fund it and launch it, will be a lot focused on like some of the get and automation around key management and kind of those areas will take priority. So it might be a different focus, but I'm happy to, if you want to combine the two, we can consider, but it feels like it'd be more efficient to keep them separate.
Cool, thanks.
I'm not sure what other folks' opinion is.
I think that makes sense to me. Yeah. One thing we discussed, oh, sorry, is there anyone else has other things on that one?
Yeah, Sid, you want to move on to your next question there, or we already covered that?
Yeah, I think some of the shadows were enthusiastic in putting in notes, but
Okay.
that's not a question. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Amy.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on Josh's discussion point last week, Gitly in Kubernetes, since I see we have Mark here. So, I mean, yeah, Josh, do you want to take the discussion point since it was yours originally last week?
Oh, yeah. No, thanks for this. And thanks for joining, Mark. Appreciate it. As we kind of, you may have gotten, like the working group is focused on Kubernetes migration and getting operational efficiencies out of being able to run more of these without a linear increase in staffing. And one of the areas that we're currently running on VMs is the Gitly service. And so it feels like to me that that's probably the next one up to consider being migrated. I'm not sure, Amy, what you would think. But it also would help other projects in the sense that, if you're a self-managed customer who wants to use cloud native, it's really the only stateful service that GitLab runs that can't be replaced by a managed service a la RDS, Elastic Cache, and so on. And so there's a couple of reasons behind this, I think, that make it quite interesting to look into. Yeah, and I think we can highlight here, but we've heard from some customers. I think some of it right now doesn't run super well in Kubernetes. Some folks are doing it, but it'd be good to maybe perhaps get ahead of this a little bit between maybe distribution and Gitly, so that when delivery is ready to to pick up and consider Gitly itself for migration, we'll have potentially resolve some of these challenges or have a better idea of what's happening here. So just trying to get ahead of the current migration of delivery in that sense.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation to this group. I mean, I think it's a really interesting problem to tackle. I've had some discussions with ZJ about it. I know he had wished to join as well, but I think this is a little bit beyond his working time for the day. Right now, we see no distinct reasons why it shouldn't work in Kubernetes. We're very open to supporting that migration and understanding where the problems arise. So yeah, thank you so much for the invitation and look forward to helping out.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. I think maybe next steps here are just the art distribution and Gitly can work together and just compare notes on what we've seen. And then we can figure out the best way to proceed here and open up more specific issues. And then we can then prioritize them as we need to.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's the end of the agenda items. Anything else? Okay, have a good day, everyone.